It's at the top.
It should be like https
Yeah.
photos.app.goo.goal.
Have you got dollars on this stuff?
Dan's got
Ooh.
some, yeah.
Dot goal.
Yeah. So this,
And do we have an update? I know it's not on the agenda item,
there you go.
but currently what we have is a student council.
So just click on this
Yeah.
link.
I won't.
No, no,
No,
no.
no.
That's
It's on the Word doc.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Today is the fourth day.
Right, they don't give it.
She doesn't, I mean, I can look in there and I
Open
see
the Word doc. Where is the
2,150
Word doc?
kids.
Oh,
Or 2,946, but that's not the total count. So I will get you that as soon as I get it. Usually, especially the first one is usually about a week delay, because you got kids that don't show up.
just like.
October 1st is a better day to know for sure. But, you know, like I said,
Well, if it's low, the sooner we know.
yeah, we're gonna have to make some adjustments.
You have to like
Course
get
adjustment,
on
no
there
doubt.
and all that stuff, but you can look at mine and how about we get it down?
I can forward you the email
And
that
I've had
has
a
the
couple
links,
of
so it's
people
not.
tell me
Roundabout,
about
if you like.
homeschool because they're concerned that COVID masking is coming
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, but that can't count for.
Couple.
Okay,
But-
here we go.
But Aubrey said he's got.
I opened it with Amazon.
That's just the aerial.
Everybody ready? We gotta get this all rolling.
Oh, up here, this link? Yes.
Yeah.
We went up there. Oh.
Are you gonna put them on screen during your presentation?
Feel it is.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm gonna get the meeting started.
okay.
Call the meeting to order. Let the record reflect that all elected board members and are present with the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And let the record reflect our one appointed board member is also present. Review of the agenda. Are there any subtractions, additions, changes?
The only addition I would make is I wanted to provide an update on the, since we're handling this more like a regular board meeting, an update on the Citizen Facility Advisory Committee. We are due, and we put it in there and I'll update at that time.
Okay. We'll do that. It really doesn't matter when we do that, I guess. We'll do that between 3 and 4.
Okay.
Anything else? That being the case, we'll go to public input. And Officer Hess?
Thank you. My name's Craig Hess. I'm a lieutenant with the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office. I've been assigned now to be the East Precinct Commander and the Consultant Police Chief. So I wanted to stop by and introduce myself. Some of you probably already know me. I was the SRO here several years ago, for several years. I just finished being the Chief of Police for the City of Gold Bar for the last 3.5 years. So the Sheriff's Office felt it would be appropriate for me to give consistency here in the Valley, having known so many people. Currently, I hold the executive level certification with the Washington Criminal Justice Commission. It's the highest certification you can have as a Chief of Police in the state of Washington. I also hold the FBI Trilogy Award, which is additional, 3 additional courses that you have to take to obtain that from the FBI leader. I just want to introduce myself. I'll be working with Dan. My deputies will be working within the city. I just thought it'd be a good day. I just got done with the Sultan Community Alliance meeting. I'm like, well, let me pop over and introduce myself to the next group. I'm on a listening tour for the next month. I'm sitting here from citizens. So, be glad to answer any quick questions that you might have.
I don't think so. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I look forward to working with all of you.
Welcome. Thank you, Craig.
Take care. Be safe.
Coming.
Take care, Charlie. Yeah.
Jeff?
Thank you, Officer House. Yeah, I'm Thank you, Board and Administration. I'm Jeff Estes from Starbuck, Washington, and I appreciate this opportunity for public comment. At the last meeting, I believe, we heard from WSSDA person, and I hadn't heard of that organization, so I kind of looked it up and read up some stuff, and I might need some clarification that Gigi might be able to provide later for me. But some of the things I found on here didn't seem to be very consistent with everything he said, and I went directly to their website. Opportunity for public comment, both oral and written, is required prior to a board meeting adopting or amending policy that is not expressly or by implication authorized by state or federal law, but will promote the education of K through 12 students and or will promote the effective, efficient, or safe management operation of the district. The proposed policy must be described in the meeting notice at which the policy will be considered. That's RCW 28A.320.015. The OPMA, which stands for Open Public Meetings Act, requires boards to allow public comment at or before every regular meeting at which final action is taken unless there is an emergency. So that part was a little bit unclear. Additionally, public comment periods have First Amendment protections. Public comment may be taken orally during the meeting or submitted in writing before at the meeting. If the public accepts written comments, the comments must be distributed to the board members. Further, if the board accepts written comments before a meeting, the board may set a reasonable deadline for the public to submit their comments beforehand. On and on and on. Basically, under the OPMA, all school board meetings, whether regular or special, must be open to the public. Meeting for the purposes of the OPMA means a meeting where action is taken. Action is defined broadly as the transaction of the official business of the board. Again, public comment periods have First Amendment protections. My last 30 seconds, I recommend we take a moment of quiet and reflect what happened on 9/11/01. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for a reminder on the 9/11 as well. We take 30 seconds and everybody just think about it, I guess. It's not a bad thing to be doing. Okay, the next item up for our agenda this evening is approval of contracts for SEA and Teamsters. We have copies of the contracts in your packet.
To give you some background, there were two contracts open, Teamsters, which is our bus drivers, and the teachers, which is Sultan Education Association. Try to keep contracts spread out so as to not negotiate with all groups in 1 year. Several people in this room participated on the district side of things in this. Had board members sit in. Gigi Goldner sat in on a teacher negotiation. The contents of the contract are listed. You can see them in the documents that are there. And I would recommend that you approve those tentative agreements. I think, Russ, you've got to recuse yourself.
I'm going to divide the Teamsters because I
Yeah.
don't have to recuse myself from Teamsters.
Correct. And then the Teamsters contract is 3-year. The Sultan Education Association contract is 2 years in duration, which has been the typical length that we've gone for them.
Questions?
I have questions.
Is there any objection to dividing up the two contracts? What's that?
She has a question.
Oh, I didn't hear. Sorry.
My apologies. Juneteenth. I saw Juneteenth included in the bus driver Teamster contract, but not in the SEA contract.
It's because the teachers work, they have an X amount of days as their contract. It's just a different contractual setup. and that's why it's not the same. And I think the way the language works here is if, for example, the school year we just completed, Juneteenth, June 19th or 19th is what it was outside of the contract year, and so it didn't count. When we missed a few days of school due to inclement weather, it became a holiday that was then within the school year. So the language that was added to the contract clarifies that issue. But it's not, it's just not
It's not part of their work year.
applicable to the school year for the teachers, because it's a non-work day, non-instruction day.
Okay. Are we talking about both contracts collectively right now, or are we gonna break them up?
I'm gonna break them up, that's why I asked if anybody had an objection to breaking them up.
Okay. Okay.
No objection?
No objection, no.
Then we'll go with the Teamsters first. Are there any questions, comments?
You have a question?
You gotta speak up, I'm half deaf, so
Oh, my apologies.
no worries.
My question is, because there was language in the Teamsters contract for the holiday Juneteenth, if we agree to that, I saw that there was a notation that if other bargaining units, specifically language here, I could go right to it. What I'm really asking is if we approve the bus drivers, is that gonna trigger also PSE receiving Juneteenth as a paid holiday? Because that's a non-work day for 180s.
Where exactly are
Teamsters contract?
you? No, I know that. What page?
Oh, that's what I'm flipping to.
I was at bargaining, if you want me to answer.
If,
The Juneteenth in the Teamsters contract is not a paid holiday, it's just a non-instructional day. So in which the bus drivers would not ordinarily work because there's no students.
That was what I was really getting at. So putting it in their contract, that's a
There-
non-work day.
Yeah, so basically it's Me Too language, so if another group gets it as a paid holiday, which it is not currently,
It's
then they
page
would
4.
get it, then they would get it also.
So it's backwards to what you were thinking.
Yes.
It isn't that they have it and then if they get it, well, somebody else wanted it. It's if
And I
somebody
was-
else gets
that's-
it, then they'll get it.
That's what I was trying to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the asterisk was, will only be added to section 6.1 during the term of this agreement, provided the district's board of directors approves it or another employee group is awarded it as a paid holiday.
Correct.
So if we go beyond our scheduled calendar year and SCA gets it, then Teamsters will get it also.
Currently, the only bargaining unit that has members that actually work on that day
Is
is
PSE,
PSE.
the 260s.
So if they got
That's
it
correct.
at some point, then we'd have to reopen the Teamsters contract.
Okay, because I know that the 4th of July is also outside the contract, but it's a federal holiday. And so just trying to understand the financial impact.
so the Juneteenth was a federal law, and the way the federal language was ruled, it wasn't mandated, so to speak. There was
Mhm.
some local choice on
Mhm.
it. Some of the other ones, there wasn't local choice,
Okay,
like the 4th of July, for example.
yeah.
So are we gonna actually have to reopen the contracts if we have to account for that, or do
No,
we
it
just
just
account
gets
for
added
it
on
and
there.
they
Immediately
get,
get it, it says they
we
can.
can just
Automatically,
take care of it, okay?
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Well,
Any other questions on the Teamsters portion?
Nope.
Then I'll ask for a motion to approve the Teamsters contract as included in our packet.
So moved.
Who got who?
I second.
We don't do a second, we're only
Oh.
5. So we have a motion, Gigi, I think beat you just by a hair. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up is the teachers and the SEA contract. Questions?
I lived it, I have no questions.
Okay. I will be abstaining because I happen to have a teacher in my house. So I'll ask for a motion to approve the SEA contract.
So moved.
I have a motion by Cindy. All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain. All opposed? Motion carries Next up, approval of purchase of grass field implement. This sounds exciting.
It actually is.
Sounds like
Just the
toy
definition of
to
the
play
grass
with.
field implement.
So this implement does aeration, it does leveling, it thatches, it's pretty amazing. So I'm not a baseball player, but in the infield of baseball and softball, where the dirt meets the grass, over time becomes a bump or a lip. And this implement, when you run it over the bump, if you will, when it's done, everything's level. It takes that out, so you don't get those weird hops off a ball to injure a student, or trip a student, or whatever. It thatches, it gets rid of, it tears up, takes the moss up out of the ground, it makes it so it drains. The tines, there's 100 tines on the implement, and it tills up the soil, has a big roller on the back that compacts it when as you go along. The infield mixes for baseball and softball are a clay mix, so it needs to be packed before the games. And this is an implement that we mostly use in the off season before winter, so that you prep the field ahead of time, and that way the grass can grow back up. It does leave quite a mulched up grass, so then we would vacuum it up with the bagging mowers that we have. And it's
Could it be
pretty-
used like this playground at times has been pretty bumpy?
Yeah, well then, for instance, the middle school football field
Yeah.
molds,
Yeah.
right? So it goes down about, like I said, 4 inches, and all those pockets and holes and stuff just evaporate. It's very, very nice. You get where you kick off and stuff, there always seems to be a low spot, and it just takes that all away. We got a full demonstration of it on a portion of the infield of the softball field, and what it did was so amazing. During the spring, when spring sports comes on, the ground is very moist, and when we do get rain, it puddles up on the infields, and which makes it difficult. You can't have a game, right? So we do spend a lot of man hours trying to take that water off, and then use a product called Turfus to dry the soil before the game. Well, this will help because it's level, the puddling will be lessened, if not gone, and it tills down about 4 inches, so that it gives us a space for the water to go. With clay, it kind of is a barrier,
Yeah.
but this will help. I think it'll save a lot of man hours.
What budget's it coming out of, Charlie?
Mine,
Okay. Questions for Charlie?
So this isn't additional funding,
correct, this
This
is out of
is-
my regular budget.
and you just need approval because of the dollar amount
Correct.
then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Charlie first came to me with it quite a long time ago, and it was above my authority to just approve, and, I had a lot of questions about it, so we talked a little bit. The one main question was that, we should see a noticeable difference in man hours. I would expect no more mud puddles, ever,
That's
Period.
my goal.
not even one,
Not one.
not one ever.
That seems like a high bar to jump over, but
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how we're gonna make this $20,000 back. And that would be no mud puddles for the rest of my life.
On average, we spend 8 to 12 man hours on a game day prepping the field.
so you could do the math, that would be.
The difficulty that I understand on my side of it is everything else gets kind of left to try to prep the fields and all
Right.
that. And so you save it in, man hours you would have to otherwise hire, this stuff. And so I don't pretend to know exactly what this is, other than we've talked extensively about it over a few times, as recently as this morning. Just because the costs are a lot, and want to understand better how it works. And, a question I've got is, these guys are in Arizona, right? I thought you were talking about buying it in Seattle or something.
No, they came up here to show it.
Okay.
For like a grass soccer fields where you do the goal kicks and the corner kicks and stuff, those areas get worn down. They get worn down the turf fields as well, but this eliminates all those pucks in the soil.
That machine will make you want to play on grass, not on turf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what it is?
Yes, I know exactly what that is. That's,
Okay.
So I had a question. Was this the only quote that you got?
They are the only maker of it.
Okay, and then, because the quote doesn't say what the company is,
Yeah, I thought that was good.
and there was
Yeah.
no signature, I did see that price guaranteed until 8/31, we're past that
They are
date.
going to honor the price, and they know that the board meeting was, well, it's been pushed a couple times, but they're aware of it and they're willing to.
Lots of internal discussion about it.
Okay.
What's the name of the company? So we can add it to it.
It's just-
Did you want me to play the video?
yeah. You want to play the video?
And music. Think you could sneak this over to my house one afternoon? I'm kidding.
Thank you. Charlie, my next question is the tractor included, or is this, if this is only the trailer?
Just the implement. And that price comes with an extra set of blades, and there's a kit to set the implement on while you change the blades to make it easier.
Is that Thatching right there? Or what is
I
that?
saw that
I watched this already, it's a month or two ago.
the change kit was more than the second set of blades.
The name of the company is Quality Turf Renovation.
Okay.
They need a better video of like talking to us and letting us know exactly what they're doing.
When I first looked at this, my first thought was no. Just because we just finished our budget, there's no information here. But I think had I known that this was not an additional ask, it's coming from your budget, the rest of the details, if they had been included, I wouldn't have been thinking on those lines. I'm wondering if one thing we can do to maybe curtail that when things come in is maybe if you do a cover page for us, the way that some of the other groups do, that provides that basic information.
What budget it comes out of and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay.
What
I had the same
company name is.
Yeah.
Just more
Yeah, I
information.
don't know why it's not on the quote. We had to attach the email to it for the auditor, so that it had, I assume they use QuickBooks or something, and,
Any other questions?
Is there a warranty with it?
yeah, 3 year.
What happens if you have to have it serviced?
We service it.
You do it yourself?
Yeah.
That's why you have the stand, I guess.
Yeah, it's the stand that it has, you, basically, it's on the 3 pin of the tractor, so you just lift it up, slide the rack under it, drop it down, disconnect, and it's off the ground and it's easy to service. It's got a bunch of greasable fittings and bearings throughout the thing.
Are the blades sharpenable?
They are not, but they are thin and they don't slice at an angle, so they're not wearing as fast. Where like a regular aerator, the tines are angled, so that they, as they go through, they're grinding on the
Right.
on the soil and wearing them down.
Is this replacement equipment or new equipment?
It's new equipment.
Okay. If I have no further questions, I'll ask for a motion to approve the quote for quality turf renovations, turf renovation machine and accessories.
So moved.
I have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
We good. 4 yeas and 1 nay. Next up is the the citizens, no, sorry, capital projects update, sorry. I'll get
Okay.
there.
I've actually added a couple more since then. I was in my office this afternoon, and Dan and I met today as well, and there's a couple things I want to touch on, but I'll hit these items first. The middle school roof, you had the link for all the pictures. There's more extensive rot within this project than there was in prior projects. There was a lot of cost in the decking. The decking around the science area and the eightplex is shiplap, and it's 3-inch thick shiplap. And the reason that they have that thickness is because it spans a distance to keep its integrity. The roof was worn out, and that's why we have some of the rot. The rot within the parapet walls, we believe, was caused by the metal capping that was on top of the parapet wall was attached without a vapor barrier. So there wasn't a piece of plastic between the metal and the wood. And the metal sweats, creating moisture. There's two main areas that are the worst, and that's at the northeast corner of the eightplex and the southwest corner. There is a section on the southeast that needs a few of the 2x6s replaced, but it's not nearly as bad as the other portions. The recommendation is to that parapet wall is a beauty item. It's non-structural. It's non-load bearing. It's a cover up so that walkers by or drivers by don't see the HVAC type stuff on the roof. And so the portion that we were recommending being removed is on the southwest corner, is parking lot facing, and again, not structural. And the portion at the northeast, we recommend dropping down to an 18-inch above the roof line so that they can roll the roofing up, and it faces the courtyard. So I don't believe it will detract from the beauty of the building. Any of you that have driven by, you'll see that we included the blue metal paneling in this project as well, and it really livens up the look of the building. There has been some cost overruns in this project because of the rot. Right now, we are at about 70,000 plus tax more than what the budget was for we had a contingency in there of 100,000, and we're 70 past that. With this is an over and beyond that. Did I include those numbers?
Well, so Dan, you did some calculating on this. you have those handy?
Yeah, just some raw numbers. So Charlie already touched on it, but the original contract had a $100,000 contingency in there. Change order one, which Charlie kind of touched on already, was the shiplap and some of the preliminary mitigation. With tax, about $190,000. So it puts you basically were about $90,000 over at that point. Change order number two, which is the one that you're contemplating right now, as far as the parapet wall, would be about $136,000 with tax. So the net effect of those two, change order one, which is already, that work has already been completed, and change order two, which you're considering right now, would put the project, including tax, about $226,000 over budget.
Is that full replacement, or are we talking about the minimum?
That's the minimal.
That's
That's
the
the
minimum.
minimum.
If you went with the full replacement, it'd be another $80,000 above that number.
I'm confused. I thought we were 70 over our 100
Well,
contingency.
it was 70 before tax.
70 plus tax, yeah.
Yeah, it was
73.
170 plus tax for the first change order.
Yeah, first change order one was 173,208 plus sales tax, so it takes you about 195,29
190. So that made us $90,000 over our 100,000.
over the 100,000 that was built in as contingency,
And then change order two.
which would be with tax about $136,000.
So the two of them, you're 226 over. Now, the first half of the project, quote me if I'm correct, if I get the number right, we were 240,000 under.
Right.
So the conspiracy theory part of me says,
Well, it looks very rotten.
this was bound to happen. But, you know, the part of me is not surprised when you look at the history of the work at the middle school and the other schools and how you run the measures multiple times and finally it passes, and it passes on just a shoestring budget. I mean, talking about having no vapor barrier, doing stuff the cheapest as you can, and here's where you are 25 years later, 26 years later.
I would find it hard to believe that the district agreed to no vapor barrier. I would be more likely to believe that the
I think
contractor
whoever the
chose.
project manager.
No, I agree with that.
Project
I
manager
agree with
probably should have caught it,
Yeah,
but, you know, if you're not up there the whole time it's being worked on, you don't see it.
so I might understand for the whole project, we're budget-wise okay.
For its
No, we're way
entirety,
over budget.
there's two parts to that. For its entirety, yes, we'll end up 15,000 below what we budgeted.
Okay.
For part two, no, that's not the case. And part two is relevant to the current cash flow model that's interdependent on all kinds of projects going on. Now, Dan is trying to figure that out as we go. We think we'll be fine, but I don't want to speak for him. He's got to talk about that.
All right.
Yeah, as Dan said, we've done a lot of work over the past year, obviously with transportation co-op facility, portable bathrooms, new portable roof on the middle school. I mean, we've done a lot, there's been a lot of activity over the past year. So the dust is starting to settle. I'm referring to all that activity as kind of round one, basically. That's round one. And so the dust is starting to settle on round one, and then we will identify where we're at and the timing related to round two of projects. Probably we're looking at about a year out for the next round of projects, because we need to get a couple of tax collections and so forth. So yes, I just got the county treasurer's report for August this afternoon, so I'm working on that. So I can have a report on the 25th. When we come together on the 25th to kind of see where we're at as far as scheduling for the next round of improvements and repairs.
So on the overall roof, we're fine, but I just want to remind everybody and those that are watching or listening is that a 4-year capital levy, you collect twice a year over 4 years.
Right.
We're doing an $8 million project, $8 million plus on the front end.
Right.
$4 million contributed by the state, some creative budgeting in the middle, and so it makes your cash flow very tight. And when we have a little hang-up, even though the whole project's within budget, cash flow's tight. Because we're borrowing from ourselves impact fees, so we don't have to pay interest on them to pay us back. So, but it adds a little heartache if, you have an error, or not even an error, but if a surprise comes up, then you can have a challenge. And that's where it comes. In the long run, it'll be cheaper.
I'd
because-
like to point out that was why I voted no at this time for the piece of floor equipment until we get past some of these other projects. and stabilizer were better.
They're different budgets.
Yes.
Charlie's is coming out of the transportation budget.
Or out of the, no, operations budget.
No,
General
operations
fund,
budget.
Yeah, but it didn't say on that paper, that's why.
Right, which I will clarify more.
Thank
And
you.
so just
More better.
understanding the big picture of why is cash flow tight now when you pass an $11+ million four-year capital levy? It's because we only collect it twice a year.
Right.
And the projects that you line up, some of them are well within that, but that's over a four-year period, not a one or a two-year.
And for the record, the reason we are pushing them is because inflation is rapidly increasing the cost to do
Oh,
these
it's
projects.
just
The sooner we
outrageous.
can do them, the less expensive they are.
So, it's a challenge, but there's,
Yeah,
So-
we've only had just the first of 8 total collections. We had the spring collection, started calendar year '23, so we've had the spring collection. We're coming up to the fall collection here, which will be the second of 8 collections,
it
but
shows you how early we are into it.
Right.
One of 8 so far.
Okay.
The
You have some-
overview shows the areas that I spoke to. That green area is the area where we would reconstruct it 18 inches tall versus the 8 feet, whatever it is. And then the red area is the area we would just remove. The yellow area is the small portion that I said that we would have to rebuild to the original height.
And then the blue is fine. Minor
Correct.
repairs, what are the minor repairs?
That's, because as we were doing exploratory, we took the ephes off. The ephes is it's like a stucco-y material on the it's on the roof side, not on the public side. And we took that off for exploratory, and we're gonna replace it with hardy board, a concrete type board.
Okay,
And the cap will have a vapor barrier.
it will. Yes, it will. You have updates on the portable restrooms and the other items on that?
I do. Okay, so the portable restrooms showed up late per their schedule, but we had them online for the first day of school. They are a 2-room trailer each, and there's 2 stalls per room. The girls have 2 toilets, the boys have a toilet and 9-year-old. They have a 450-gallon waste tank, and the first pumping will be tomorrow, if anybody wants to come watch. And I think that we are going to be able to get away with once a week. We'll keep it at 2 for a couple weeks to make sure that the volume is what we think it is, but that'll be good for finance, that the cost will come down in the servicing.
And we will own these versus lease them,
Right.
so they can be resold.
Correct, we actually already own them. Playground equipment, which is the orange cordoned off area in the playground. We have received a portion of the equipment that it will actually go on the south side of the 300 building, which is the sensory area for special needs. And the rest of it is being shipped Friday, and it'll be here Monday or Tuesday of next week. And 2 weeks from today is when the install date is. I would anticipate, weather permitting, that it would be about a week for the install, and not so much time for the actual building of the structure. I think it's the pouring of the rubber, and because it has the rubber walkways and whatnot in it. And I'm sure it has to be dry-ish to do that. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. The co-op building, I went down there today, talked to them a little bit. We have some items there that we're gonna remove for them tomorrow. Some old bollards that were along that road that kept people from going in there. We're gonna keep them and repurpose them through time. But the first paving will be tomorrow, and they're gonna pave the north parking lot, which is the where all the employees park and whatnot, visitors. And we've ordered furniture for it.
It's great.
The lifts are on the ground, they're not installed yet. We have a drive-on lift, 4-post lift for the buses. And it also, should we ever have some sort of a co-op with the fire department, it is of the strength to hold a engine that is full of water.
What is the tonnage, do you know, on that?
40,000. The bus weighs about 20,000.
Have you guys been down to see it lately?
I've driven
I
by
have.
it.
It sure
Yeah.
looks good.
It does.
I mean, it's really, really high quality.
Yeah, if any of you ever want to go, and I have extra hard hats, I'll go down there with you and walk it.
I
And
might do that Thursday if you're around.
they're,
Is the asphalt being this week?
asphalt's tomorrow. All of the steel studs for the office areas are in. They're feverishly working on all of the wiring and stuff going through that before they drywall.
So the plan will be board meetings will move to that location.
Correct. Like I said, the furniture's ordered for that. If I have a boardroom or, if you've been to the city hall, it's got a kind of a curved, table,
Yep.
desk thing. And I've ordered something similar for a smaller scale.
It's nicer
No
than these.
no more folding tables. And it will, hopefully with Moon's help, we can wire it with mics at each station like the city has, and it'll make it easier for recording and whatnot.
Any questions about that?
No?
I did have a couple other items that I added on here that the board had approved. We replaced 3 unit ventilators in this campus, heaters, 3 classroom heaters, and that work got done about 2 weeks ago. The final inspection was today and it passed, and they're up and running well. We did some modifications and upgrades to some of the fencing projects that we did. At the high school, there's 3 walk-through gates that have panic bars on them, and the spring hinges are not strong enough to always close that door if there's a wind or whatever. So we're installing like a door closer like on the building here that will pull that door shut. So keep our students safe within the confines of that. That's it.
And thanks for getting the planters at least built out here now.
Yeah, so we are, we have a plan to add to that too. We wanna add some trees and some shrubs and some either perennials or annuals, depending on which way we wanna go. And those flowering plants will be at the front, facing the street, and then kinda tiered, so trees in the back, shrubs, and then flowers. And we have some plans for the middle school where we took the cherry trees out as well. We thought it would be more difficult, but we had a pipe break during the summer, and we had to dig it up and found that the ground had softened considerably with those trees gone. And so if you drive by, you'll see it's leveled out now, it's not all bumpy and whatnot. And so we have some ideas for that, but depending on which direction the district goes with bonding and buildings and stuff, and with transportations and operations moving this winter, I'd like to entertain making the 4th Street a bus lane to separate the parent drop-off from the buses. And so with that in mind, we probably will hold until we get further down the road to have that discussion.
Any questions for anything Charlie had?
No, thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Citizens Advisory Committee update. Yeah?
So tomorrow night, remember, this is the 2nd iteration of this, and last February, I think it was, has asked me to reconvene the group that was meeting prior to COVID. We've done so. Tomorrow is our 13th meeting, and lots of different ways to look at it. There's a few folks in here that are part of that, and I think there's been some really good discussion, planning. There's some challenging things to look at, trying to figure out how this should work. I don't want to speak for the whole group, but I think we've kind of narrowed in on needs being some grade configuration and a sort of a multi-step process. One of the things that came into play that we're going to look closer at is there's some modular, not portables. Portable's kind of a tough word around here, but modular sort of structures that decrease the cost by quite a bit that we're entertaining. Our next study session is October the 9th, I believe, and that's spent at the Jamboree. Next board meeting is the 25th. So I want to devote a part of that meeting to having a group from that committee come and update the board. Because we're at a point where we've got to get you involved and know what the thinking is and what the next steps might be or might not be. And we're just there. And while we have a meeting tomorrow, and I don't want to say that I know exactly how it'll end out, we, I think, left our last meeting with some, I would confidently say, a better feeling of, maybe thinking about a couple of K-4 elementary schools and a 5-6 campus here and a 7-8, something like that, that, gives you some room to grow without having to do too much right at one time. But however you slice it, it's going to have to take some good support to figure out what's needed.
Well, and you can't build for future growth by the way the state statutes work. So you're always going to have that need for portables.
And I would tell you that, for those of you that don't know, I'm not hugely surprised, the Wahkiakum lawsuit failed. And that was a school district down south that has failed like 6 bonds in a row, and they had sued the state under the McCleary thing, saying that the state should pay the full cost. I watched the hearing last spring, the Supreme Court. I didn't think it was going to pass coming out of that, because I thought they approached it wrong. But that's just my opinion. And that was affirmed here the other day. So the challenge, if we're waiting for some fix from the state, is that some of the small school fixes that they offer in remote or rural communities don't capture somebody like us, unfortunately. So one of the things I am going to do as part of this is I'm going to call Mitch Deming, try to get some of our legislators out here to take a look at distressed schools, so the high school portion of what is part of our plan, see if we can get some legislative support for that. Because the needs, you can look at them a lot of different ways, and they're all valid. You look at the middle school, and you can see, that's stuff we didn't even see until we got into the building. I can't imagine what's here.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be
It's
good.
like I'm having nightmares about it.
The one thing, though, for this building is back when before you were on, we did the asbestos abatement, and a lot of stuff got ripped out of these buildings. So I'm hoping it's not, I'm certain there's problems, but I'm hoping that took care of some of the things that would have been here now.
The biggest downfall of this campus, besides the design, is the roofing material being Hypalon, and it being 20 years past its expected life. And with the porousness of it and the little bit of slope that we have, it's hard to know where the
Right.
leak is that's causing a rot. So that, I remember at one point we had a 50 by 50 blue tarp on this building, on this half. And we were asked to take it off, and we had it on there because we couldn't find the leak. Well,
It
it never leaked.
It looked like the orange fence and the yellow tape.
Right, it did.
Fit right in.
But when we took the tarp off, it didn't leak anymore. And we didn't do anything.
So,
So,
we don't know.
Spontaneous
Well, these-
healing. my
Those
favorite.
pillars there might be full of water. We don't know.
Okay. And I think that's a great idea, you have the advisory committee for the next
So
one.
tomorrow night we're gonna, be the whole committee if they want, but certainly a representative group, and, it's gonna be, them speaking to, here's what we share. And then ultimately from that, the board is gonna be asked to provide some further direction. And it's not something we just decide, you've entrusted us to do some initial work, but we've gotta run it by you And then you're gonna have to lay out what the next steps are.
Makes sense. Next up is the PLC's update, Paul.
Good evening, directors.
Good evening.
So Caleb, could you just go ahead and move to that PowerPoint? That's probably the easiest.
Are you doing it too, Mike?
I am, yes, he's first up. Okay.
Save time though.
Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, that's how we're on Hardy.
Just don't tell which is which. All right, so one of the reasons we wanted to meet with you tonight is to keep you updated on where we are with the PLC training. You know, we went back a month or two ago to talk about implementing the work that Solution Tree is working with us on for the next 3 years. And part of that process is making sure that the board is part of that whole process. It's board to the classroom. And so we had some training last week, Wednesday and Thursday last week. And that's really what this is updating on where we were last week in our first introduction training, and then where are we moving from here, and kind of giving you the entire year, what we're doing the entire year, and making sure you're involved in the whole process. So, go ahead, Caleb. So you can see, and well, you might be able to see better than I can see, but the thing coming out the greatest. So year one, you see in year one, the red areas is our areas of focus. So enduring understanding is the big focus this year. And then coming down to looking at how we measure the enduring understanding. What are those standards that are really the key pieces, and how you measure them. And so the real difference when you look at them is, instead of like a learning target where you break it down and look at a rubric or an objective, this is really looking at the standard itself. Does it meet the criteria in terms of, is it realistic? Does it provide the leverage that's necessary? Is it something that's going to carry over? So one of the models that, or one of the things they talked about is Douglas Reeves is one of the big educators and researchers around PLCs, and he talked about, is it a leverage strategy that carries over into multiple content areas? So writing is an example of nonfiction writing. So if you're good at writing nonfiction, you'll be good at writing informational text, and the skills you learn there carry over into different writing styles in different content areas, so social studies, science, and so on. So that's what we would consider an essential learning, is being able to do that and then transferring that over. So that's really our focus this year, is breaking those down, getting clarity on what those are. But it's also a horizontal and a vertical connection. So as we look at those essential understandings or essential learnings, everybody calls it something different. The third thing is power standards. So if you hear all those three together, they mean the same thing. So what we're looking at as we're doing that is, what's the vertical connection to the standard itself? Does it travel up and down from, let's just say, first grade all the way to 12th grade? If it does, then that's an essential standard our kids must know, understand, and be able to do. Within that, what does it look like in that grade level? So for first grade, what does it look like within that? Are we doing the exact thing in terms of alignment? We don't have one teacher doing one thing, one doing another. We really narrowed it down. And by narrowing it down, we've really clarified what it is that students must know, understand, and do. Really narrowing down the learning. So teachers aren't looking at that book like, let's just say, I won't speak for others in here, but when I went to school, it was chapter 1 to chapter 36. We don't do that anymore. It's what is essential in there, and then what materials do we bring in to promote the learning in that essential area. So it really narrows that down. I could cite you some other different researchers, but you don't need to know that kind of stuff.
Could you email this to the board maybe
Yep.
tomorrow so we can read it? Because I can't read it.
I can't even read it
I
on the
can't read
screen.
it
This
either.
is just
If
a
you,
bad
if you can find a
copy.
clear copy.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'll send you,
It looks like it didn't convert over right or something.
I'll blame Dave for that, since he's not here.
He's watching.
Yeah, Dave. will fix it. So I kind of through some of this, so like I said, it's the grade level connections, the vertical alignment, and then the real criteria, or what's the readiness to learn. So that's, a lot of that readiness to learn is what's the pre-assessment. You know, where are kids at? Not making the assumption, finding out where are they truly at. If they already know the material, why would we reteach it again? So that kind of concept there.
I just add a comment in there, this all kind of contributes to the bigger why. You know, there are, and I mentioned this at the staff meeting, the opening staff conversation, there's enough standards for kids to go to school until they're 27 years old. Okay? If we don't behave as a school district rather than a district of schools that is moving along with the same essential standards, you will get hard work and poor results. And that's kind of, and we've experienced that in some ways. That's just the fact of the matter. Not that, you know, I want to say we're doing a poor job. We're not as aligned as we need to be able to be as far as the athletic standards. And so this is taking a district stance, and we're going to do this differently because we expect better results for everybody's hard work and commitment to this. And that we'll behave as a school district, not a district of schools.
Thank you.
Video?
Yeah, go ahead and show the video. So only about the first, let's do only about 4 minutes of this, because I want to record up here.
It's not just who you collaborate, okay? As Rick talked about, it's what you collaborate about. And what are we going to have these teacher teams do? They're going to focus on the last 3 essentials. They're going to focus on the last 3 hearts. What? Our third essential, the third heart, the third thing we must be tight about. We got to get very clear on exactly what all students must learn. DLCs capture it with this question. What do we expect our kids to learn? The first question we ask the team to consider. Marzano would call this a guaranteed viable curriculum. Reeves would call it power standards. I don't care whose vocabulary you want to call it. We know this. If we want all kids to learn, we better get insanely clear on exactly what kids have to learn in this course, this grade level, this subject, to be prepared for next year and beyond. Now some will say, but Mike, we already have state standards, don't we? Why would we have teachers do this activity when it's already been defined for us? Okay, teachers, be honest here. Would you agree with this statement? There are more state standards than you could ever hope to have every child learn. Agreed? You try to squeeze all your state standards into 1 year in your course at your grade level, you're going to look or sound a whole lot more like this. Can't be done. And folks, it's not you. Marzano did a study of our national standards. Here's what he found. To cover them all, we'd have to go from a K-12 program to a K-22 program. Unless one of the interventions in your district is kids get to go to school until they're 27, they're not going to learn them all. So what's been the unintended outcome of asking teachers, that's No Child Left Behind pass, to cover all your state standards, and yet once they get to their room, they know it's impossible? Well, teachers can't announce, I'm skipping some. So in the privacy of their own room, when the standards police aren't watching, teachers are making choices. They think this way. I think this is really important. I'm going to hit this hard. In fact, I might even find time to reteach it if kids don't get it. This is pretty important. I'll make sure I teach it. All kids will have exposure to it, but I might not find time to reteach if kids don't get it. And I'll try to get to everything, but if I run out of time, I might not get to this stuff. But the problem is every teacher is forced to do it in the privacy of their own room. So what's been the unintended outcome? 3 national studies of the actual curriculum. Not what's on your state guide or your district guide, what's actually being taught. Here are the words to describe it. A self-selected jumble of standards. Wild variation, school to school, teacher to teacher, on what a child might learn, same course, same grade level, same subject. And the actual language arts curriculum is called curricular chaos. We must take this process out to the light of day. Why? We agreed one teacher can't meet the needs of every child. So we're going to work collectively to meet the needs of every child. But how can we share kids and respond collectively if we're all teaching different things at different times? We can't. We must agree upon what's most essential. And we must engage every teacher to have a strong voice in this. Why? Who knows the needs of the kids at your school best in the whole world? The teachers who serve those kids. The best curriculum needs to connect both where kids have to get and the content. We also got to hook them from where they're coming from. The demographics of the schools in this room are different, right? They're coming from different places. So we need to consider both. Not to, when kids come from a disadvantaged background, not to lower the bar, but you still got to connect where they are to where they have to go. And the people who know where those kids are the teachers who work with them, and each teacher's also trained in their subject. So they're the best people to connect the content we have to get to where kids are coming from. Now, we know this. Let me give you a tool worth the price of admission, okay?
Yeah. You get the idea.
He's a little fired up at times there.
I used to be like that, but no.
You know, just one quick reminder, one of our 4 goals from our hybrid strategic plan was a guaranteed viable curriculum.
Right.
So this is taking another step to build the support system around the district to kind of see these things to fruition.
I'll send you this one too, but it's,
It's a little hard to read.
Yeah, what's going
yeah,
on here?
I don't know what happened
It's
to these.
the way it's been
It's been
converted.
stretched
Yeah.
beyond its abilities.
So the bottom line out of these are a little bit what Mike Matos was talking about there. These are the 4 questions of the PLC, and we've talked about these a little bit before, but what do we expect students to learn, know and understand, be able to do? What do we do if they've learned it? What do we do if they didn't learn it? And then how do we respond when students do learn it in moving forward? So one of the things Mike Matos was talking about is connecting, when he was connecting to people or kids where they're coming from, but not lowering the standard. I think that's a huge piece for people to understand. We're not lowering the standard. Regardless of who the student is, we don't lower the standard. We help them to get to the standard. And we do that by narrowing down those key standards that kids really need to know. Okay. Here's my excitement here. We've been, we've been doing a lot of good things, and I think Mike will jump in right behind me, but he can basically let you know that we've been doing PLC Lite. And we've been doing that for a number of years in the district. It's not that it's wrong, but it's not as detailed or as in-depth as we need to be. So the celebration part of it is our teachers have started doing these things, our administrators have started to do these things. So it's not as big of a leap as, say, starting out from scratch. It's just a matter now as how do we take that PLC Lite and go deep and finish the work. Go ahead, Caleb. Okay, so this is, you guys have some school board meetings coming up. And you'll have Janelle Keating is going to come out and talk to you a little bit more about the process and what does it look
It's
like.
online.
Yeah, oh, that's right. It's online for, she's going to talk to you online. But she'll talk to you about what's it look like from the school board side, taking it from the school board to the classroom, and what the board's involvement is as we go through this process.
So the dates to pay attention, they change this around.
During the day as well.
Yeah, 2 p.m. or 4 p.m. on the 30th, the 17th, or the 23rd. If you can't make any of those, it'll be taped. So we'll have.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike.
I think
I'll
I
send
just-
you that other slide too.
Thank you, just so we can read it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we have some good graphics that, when I look at them, I'm going, I can't even read this. So, I think the idea, when you go back to this very first piece, and I'm just showing it, it was the same one as up there, that the red is the essential. That's what we're really working on. We're going to get the entire framework. Actually, she covered last week the whole 3 years. And we had to kind of, it was Dan and Paul and I in the office, and we were like going, this is way too much and way too fast. But the idea is that we're going to come back and we're going to focus on these essential learnings. We already have done our first, what I would say, the PLC Lite, and she refers to it as that. We know there's some things that we've learned. We've sent groups off, we've sent teachers know a little bit, principals know a little bit. We want to go deeper, and we need to unpack these standards to the point where we're talking. We're going to, I mean, the idea is down below 10 key essential learnings. You still teach everything, but you go deep in these essential learnings. So that's something that I learned last week, that kind of in the language of this PLC development through Solution Tree. We're really going to go deep and try to make sure that every student, all means all, and so we're trying to make sure that happens. So we'll still learn about assessment. We're going to still learn about the other pieces in that first column, but you can, when you get the graphic, we'll get it out to you tomorrow. It's very clearly laid out, and then we have the group that we've already put together. Principals in each building, We have ELA and math teachers in both the middle school and high school, and then we have a staff rep from the elementaries, each of the elementaries. So it's a big committee. Gigi sits on it with us, and so we appreciate you being there. But it's about trying to make sure that we're getting better, and we can't just continue. We will have things that look like PLC light this year, but we're going to keep moving towards that goal of getting clear, concise. I think parents will love it. I think the community will love it. We should be very transparent in everything that we do about what we're teaching in school. So that's where we're going.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Questions from anyone?
You guys are always welcome to come to any of those meetings as well, though online, virtual. So you're always welcome. We can send that schedule to you. Gigi, you can see twice if you like.
Next up, Gigi with our Mental Health Advisory Committee update.
I actually wrangled Heidi
Oh.
into coming because you guys get to listen to me enough. So I asked Heidi, she's my co-chair, so
Okay.
I asked her to
And I don't mind, I'm
update.
going to do it from here because I'm a little broken. And,
And Jeff's was on the committee as well, so.
So as long as you can hear me okay.
So far, I can hear everything you're saying.
So we did take it a little slow this summer, just because it's summer, a lot of things going on, but we're starting to ramp up again where we're doing 2 meetings a month like before and really starting to push some things. We did create some good posters that are up around the school. Gigi has some copies of those. On there are some QR codes. The bottom one for more resources takes you to the school district website where you can report bullying and find other resources that are available to students and parents and staff. And then if you want to talk in person or online, technically those QR codes go kind of to the same place. It's a form that the student fills out, and it explains what they're asking, if they want to talk in person, if they want to be a live person, or if they're going to want to talk online via a Zoom conference, because some people are better. My kids are better off screen and behind screen than in person talking. So however they're comfortable, they're able to reach out and get help in that way. With the new no cell phone policy we just put into place, we're going to be working through some alternate placements. We talked about putting them on the backs of school bus seats so that people can have their phone on the school bus. And then also working and having them in strategic places around town, just wherever we can possibly get them up. The upcoming things we're doing, there's the Party in the Park with the VOA and the Sultan Prevention Coalition is this Friday, the 15th, from 2:30 to 5. We're going to have a table there with our information and stickers that look a lot like that I created that are just the You Are Enough and the 2 QR codes and then our school website. And again, those posters, I don't know if I said that, will be available, paper copies will be available at the office and in different places at school. So if you can't use your phone, you can still grab it and take it and use it when you need to. We're also working on creating t-shirts, which will basically say the same kind of thread, You Are Enough, and on the back will be a QR code. We talked about different ways to do that. There's some local people that can print them here, but that's going to require money up front to buy them and then sell them and hand mount and things like that. But there's a venue that I found that you can do an online fundraiser. While selling the shirts, you can also raise money, and then we can use that money to do community events and teachings and bring educators out, things like that, and do other things with that money. So we're still hashing that out.
Can we jump in real quick
Yeah,
before you
go for it.
move on? We also talked about bookmarks for the kids that will have the information, adding it, making it the screensaver on the laptops and computers and stuff, adding it to Canvas so it's on there. And the other one that Jeff's been a real good proponent of, adding it to the morning announcements in the schools.
So then, future things we want to look at, we want to start digging into policies around mental health and how you support those kids and how teachers deal with all of that. And just using these two tweets are adjusted and brought up to current standards and things that there's some, best practices change every year. And so we want to look at those. Also want to look at the education that teachers and staff are getting and make sure that we can, if we need to fill in any holes, I know we do really well, but make sure we're checking all boxes, so everybody knows how to handle if somebody's got a mental health issue or are in danger, or even trauma-informed care type practices, things like that. We're going to start talking about community events, also student engagement. We've had Some students come, they're usually with their parents, but we've had some great comments from kids that come and express their thoughts from 5th grade all the way through high school, I think so far. And then we're also gonna, I wanna change these posters out every 3 or 4 months throughout the year, so a couple different times throughout the year, so they stay eye-catching. You don't see the same poster on the wall all the time. And with that, we're thinking about possibly doing a poster competition, so like elementary school, kids can get, so they're vested in the posters, they're vested in the thought and the process, so. And that's just our starting point. We have a lot more, but that's where we're headed. Any questions?
No,
It's a lot, but
That's
we're
great.
working that way. And I want to say too that this committee is one of the first committees I've been on, and I've been on a lot, where it's a very cohesive place to be. Everybody is supportive, and I don't even, it's hard to explain. I mean, you've been on other committees too, and it's weird, we walk in the room and everybody just, their thoughts are heard, everybody talks about it. We don't all agree, but we all have that conversation because we're all in there for the right reason, for the same reason, for the same purpose. And I appreciate that a lot, and I think you can feel that in the room, so I appreciate it.
That's great, and good job, guys, starting this and launching it so rapidly into something that's visible and present in our schools.
Thanks.
Next up, did you hand off the student?
Mike and Dan and Paul, if you guys want to hit it.
Student representative update?
I did not have anyone hand that one off to you. I did meet with Sarita, and I got her more involved in the process, kind of what she wanted to see and everything, so, I came up with like an application, gave it to Kayla, she made it into Microsoft Forms, it's online, there's also a paper copy in the office. Sarita sent it out to everybody, she wanted the deadline to be quick, so the ones that wanna do it are gonna do it, so the deadline is the 15th.
Kids are already signing up, I've heard.
Yeah, so, did that. I am coming up with an interview committee. There are 3 teachers at the high school that would like to be on that, and I welcome all 3 of them. So then we'll get a board member and somebody from the district office, come up with our questions and everything. That's our next step, and we will do those interviews, and then working on a handbook. Kayla and I kind of found some stuff that would be great to make, so they actually have a handbook and know exactly what is required and what's expected of them, so.
That's very
coming along. Yeah, and then once we kind of get the kids and stuff, and we're kind of moving that way, then we can work kind of on the policy and, you know, get that done also. But just trying to get the kids as quickly as we can so that we can get them. That's it.
Any questions for Gigi? I believe we have executive session this evening, do we?
Closed session.
Closed session, all right. Then I will ask for a motion to adjourn our regular meeting, closed session for.
Wait.
Oh, General Assembly
Oh, sorry,
discussion.
I went right by it. I need the new system, it won't let me do that. Sorry, Gigi, please.
I just wanted to talk more, so.
There you go.
I sent you guys, and Kayla printed it out also, which is great. So it's basically the 96 pages of the General Assembly handbook, and I just put the meat of each one on there. I think the easiest thing is gonna be if you guys look through it and let me know what's a no. I think that's easier than, you know, yes, no for each one, just kind of what's a no. The assembly is on the 22nd and 23rd. So if you guys could let me know by the 21st, what your opinions are, I'll
I'm more
put them all
than happy.
together, and then we'll just go with the consensus on each one. There's nothing earth-shattering in there, we're not, you know, solving the.
I know why I missed that first one, because it's not really numbered. It's just the first sentence on it is the one that we all voted to make every delegate shall
Yeah.
have one vote.
And that will be the first thing on the first day.
That makes
the first
sense.
vote,
Not
so-
weighted, or.
Not weighted, yeah.
Not wait, every delegate
They
gets
just-
one vote,
yeah.
not Seattle gets to basically make what
All of
Boston
them.
does.
Yes, so all the weighted stuff will be off, so.
That's a great thing.
But yeah, if you guys just let me know by the 21st, I'll be out of town, I get back that day, and then I'll just put it all together.
You
And
just want an email which ones I know on, is that?
yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
You can do however you want, just, you know, it's probably might be the quickest, just, you know, these are no, or these are, whatever you want to do. We'll put it together. All right, that's it.
Now I'll ask for a motion to adjourn our regular meeting for
I make a
closed
motion to
session.
adjourn.
And how long do we believe this closed session will be? 10 minutes. So it is now by my watch phone, 8:15. We'll take a 5-minute recess in case anybody needs to use the facilities or stretch their legs. And we'll start at 8:20 and we'll be done at 8:30.
And make sure that